Okay, good morning, and thank you all for joining us today to celebrate the launch of 5 trusted and secure small UAS configurations being made available on the GSA schedule for procurement across the federal government. My name is Chris Bonzagni, and myself, along with my colleague Matthew Borowski, are program managers with the Defense Innovation Unit and have led the prototyping effort to develop these small UAS capabilities known as Blue Small UAS. The Blue Small UAS project is a culmination of an 18-month collaborative effort that included a strong partnership with the U.S. Army, the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Research and Engineering and Acquisition and Sustainment, the General Services Administration, and a variety of other supporting agencies and organizations, the list of which is too long to read in this forum. We are incredibly grateful for the support of DoD leadership and the U.S. Army to identify these 5 companies as a great first step towards meeting DoD and federal government small UAS needs. Our original intention for this event was to conduct an in-person flight demonstration where users could see, touch, and fly these small UAS, but given our current climate, we made the decision to go 100% virtual. With this said, we have a jam-packed next few hours, with the intent of today's program being to provide an overview of the criticality of having a trusted small UAS industrial base, an understanding of what the government has done to develop, test, and vet these small UAS configurations, the details of how to purchase these small UAS on the GSA schedule, and finally, to allow the companies an opportunity to showcase the small UAS configurations they've worked so hard to develop for our warfighters and government users. In the interest of time, we have provided the bios of all presenters to you in advance and will not be reading full bios when introducing presenters. The first hour will be recorded and will not allow for open Q&A, but the individual sessions with the companies will not be recorded, allowing for open conversation between each of the 5 companies and government personnel. Please note, in order to protect the intellectual property of the companies, we've elected to use 5 separate Microsoft Teams sessions. You will have to log off and log back into the next session to participate. If you have any issues during today's activities or specific questions on the content you hear today that are not addressed in the open forum, please email bluesmalluas@diu.mil. Our team will respond to you as quickly as possible, but we do ask for your patience as we have a small team and a lot of participants. With that said, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Mr. Michael Kratsios, the new Acting Undersecretary of Defense for Research and Engineering. Mr. Kratsios also serves at the White House as the Chief Technology Officer of the United States. He has been a longtime supporter of the effort to have a domestic supplier of small UAS. Mr. Kratsios, over to you.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks to DIU Director Mike Brown for his dedication to commercial and military innovation. Today's event is the culmination of 18 months of work by the Army and the Defense Innovation Unit to tailor the best technology from U.S. and allied companies to develop an inexpensive, small UAS for the warfighter. U.S. technologies have incredible promise and potential to not only provide great economic benefit for the American people, but also to enhance safety and security for our nation. We need a strong, secure, domestic UAS manufacturing base to ensure American leadership in this critical field. A year ago, the Department of Defense looked to acquire commercial small UAS technology, but found that a single Chinese company with security and supply chain concerns, DJI, maintained a near monopoly with around 77% of the drone market. Today, that dominance is no longer assured. Through the work of Blue sUAS, we are proud to announce the availability of 5 U.S. manufactured drone configurations to provide trusted, secure sUAS options to the U.S. government. Blue sUAS represents a tremendous first step forward in building a robust and trusted UAS domestic industrial base that ensures sustained delivery of highly capable, secure UAS to the warfighters that depend on it. Blue sUAS showcases how we partner with industry and our allies to quickly pilot and scale cutting-edge technologies across the joint force and the U.S. government. In my role as U.S. Chief Technology Officer, I've long worked to advance the safe integration of UAS into the national airspace. In 2017, we worked alongside the FAA to launch the UAS Integrated Pilot Program. The IPP establishes test sites around the country where state, local, and federal governments work alongside industry and academic experts to pilot innovative uses of commercial drone operations. 3 years later, the program highlighted how UAS technologies can be helpful across many different settings, from public safety to agriculture to package delivery, and it has provided the FAA with the necessary data to craft and modernize its UAS regulatory framework. By spurring American UAS innovation, we create an environment where America's UAS industry can flourish. The Department of Defense recognizes the growing value and capabilities of small UAS, from providing on-demand intelligence and reconnaissance capabilities in contested battle spaces, to routine monitoring of critical infrastructure, to transporting products. We will continue to focus on providing a secure, trusted, and capable small UAS to the warfighter and across the government. The Blue UAS vendor capabilities show a diversity of options for DoD and the rest of the federal government. And in September, we'll be able to easily procure these trusted, secure sUAS through GSA. This effort is a key example of how we can quickly prototype and then scale critical technologies across the USG for our nation's security. Partnerships between commercial companies, the federal government, and academia have long driven our nation's greatest innovations. Many of DoD's efforts have been drivers of leadership in key technology areas, and Blue sUAS has the potential to do this for the small drone industry. We look forward to continued progress from Blue sUAS and thank all the industry, academic, and government partners involved. Thanks again, and I'm excited for today's event.
Thank you, Mr. Kratsios, for your comments and your continued leadership and support in the area of fostering secure and trusted small UAS capability.
Hey, this is Andrew Ruddick. So I've been working with Chris and Matthew on this project for quite some time. I am the APM for the SRR project within the Soldier Unmanned Aircraft Systems Product Office. We fall under PMUAS, led by Colonel Anderson, and PEO Aviation, led by General Barry, and are located on Redstone Arsenal, Huntsville, Alabama. But I'm excited to speak to you today. I've been part of this program for quite a while, and I kind of get to go over how the Army program of record SRR fits within this portfolio, within our portfolio, and the UAS framework in general. So for sUAS on the Army side, SRR is not a new program. It's been a long time coming. It is a new platform for us. So the efforts you're seeing today stem from a kind of long evolution of requirements, funding, and the effort that these vendors have put into all these platforms. The requirement side, SRR was established in 2013 with a capability production document that continued our support with Raven, but added in a short-range capability as well as a long-range platform. Both the other platforms were unfunded at that time, and a few things had to come into place to make that happen. The long-range platform is still kind of waiting its turn. It's next in line, and we're expecting it to come online in the 2023 timeframe. So the factors that really got SRR going took a couple of things to happen. So our requirements transitioned from Fort Rucker and the Aviation Center to the Maneuver Center of Excellence at Fort Benning. And additionally, our funding oversight and management transition from FDV, the aviation portfolio, into FDD, the robotics portfolio. The third piece that really got us going was the Close Combat Lethality Task Force identified SRR as a capable platform to help with that tip of the spear, last 100-meter fight, and identified us for acceleration. All while this was happening, the commercial drone technology has been rapidly advancing. This influenced our acquisition strategy and pushed us to take advantage of some of the acquisition capabilities, such as mid-tier acquisition. And it also helped establish the partnership with DIU and their expertise in bringing commercial industry into the DoD programs. And that partnership started around 2017 and really matured in 2018. And we worked component level efforts as well as the prototype efforts that you guys will be seeing today. There are a number of differences between where Blue UAS is and the SRR program of record. We're focused on meeting our capabilities within our capability production document. We are specific to Army mission requirements, and we're integrated with a government-owned handheld ground controller. That's different than the Blue UAS capability. This gives us hardware across platforms, so shared between Raven and SRR, as well as sharing some of the common tools on the HECS software side. Appreciate the chance to talking to everyone today, and really looking forward to seeing where all the vendors are at. We've been working on the Army side, but there's been development on the Blue UAS side. I'm excited to see, and I think this will all just help feed into our tranche to our next generation SRR program, which is just coming up around the corner. So hopefully we can get Chris back online, and I'll throw it over to those guys for a Blue UAS overview. But I appreciate the time, and look forward for the rest of the presentation.
Yes, I just found my mute button. Apologies as we work through some of the technical difficulties here. So thank you, Andrew, and thank you to Army's PEO Aviation for their leadership and strong partnership in providing trusted and secure small UAS capability to our men and women in uniform. So I believe we were able to get back on Mr. O'Donnell.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to thank Secretary Kratsios and Mike Brown for this great partnership between R&E and A&S here in the building. This is a very exciting time, and this achieves a goal that we set a year ago to look for a different way to provide these capabilities to our warfighter. So instead of having to go through a formal acquisition program, DIU has really spearheaded this effort to try to get this on a GSA contract so that we can offer these capabilities up to anybody across the Department of Defense and across our other government partners. Our operations in Iraq and Afghanistan showed the potential for these small UASs over the last 5 or 6 years. Besides administrative use for inspections, for surveys, and recording events, small UAS has become a very important part of military operations on the modern battlefield. As we learned more about the commercial off-the-shelf items we were using, we became more concerned about the industrial and security impacts these inexpensive tools had on the department. Ms. Lord was asked by the SecDef to look at these commercial products and chart a different course for the Department of Defense. That course included examining every use of commercial UAS across the department and understanding the potential security and industrial impacts in detail. She met with the DoD CIO, Mr. Deasy, and reviewed every use of commercial UAS on a bi-weekly basis. And this gained for her and Mr. Deasy a very deep understanding of how we're using these systems, what we use these systems for, and the security and industrial impacts of using non-US based drones. At the same time, we're very proud of the Army's program under the leadership of PEO Aviation with the SRR program, and the way that the Army and DIU work together to understand the inherent security risks of the selected platforms and demonstrate the utility with Army units. And these five systems that they selected become the basis of the first 5 systems that we'll move forward with under the contract. Key to purchases within DoD of these 5 systems is the added benefit that they will not have to submit a waiver any longer, and Ms. Lord and Mr. Deasy won't have to look at all of these waivers, to give an exception to policy for procurement or operation of systems that are already vetted under the NDAA Section 8448 compliance. This waiver process has been adopted by other government agencies, and these systems will also meet their requirements and any anticipated executive orders or legislation. A&S will continue to work with R&E and our industry partners on future Blue UAS projects and programs to support development of larger and more technically capable systems that the DoD requires and our nation needs to compete and outpace our competitors. Ms. Lord is deeply concerned with establishing a strong defense industrial base for small unmanned aerial systems. The presidential determination for small UAS was signed by President Trump in June of 2019, which allows the Department of Defense to make investments in small UAS defense industrial base using the Defense Production Act Title III authorities to sustain critical production, commercialize R&D investments, and/or scale emerging technologies. The Department of Defense sponsored Drone Venture Day on 13 November 2019 for U.S. manufacturers of UAS to meet with trusted capital providers to explore mutual beneficial business partnerships. As part of the national response to COVID-19 and to support the domestic small unmanned aerial systems industrial base, the Department of Defense awarded contracts totaling $13.4 million to 5 companies to sustain the capabilities of this critical domestic industrial base. $13.4 million worth of contracts to 5 companies were executed through DIU as their commercial solutions opening at the same time that the economic shutdown started occurring. The DPA Title III small UAS efforts are still ongoing, and more opportunities for the U.S. manufacturers will be made available in FY 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell, for your remarks and for the support of your organization on making this effort a reality. We certainly couldn't have accomplished what we did without the dedication and support of yourself, Mr. Ingraham, Lieutenant Colonel Bennett, Mr. Castillo, and so many others within acquisition and sustainment. So next on the agenda, Matthew Borowski and I will provide an overview of the Blue Small UAS efforts to date. Slide. Okay, here's an agenda of what we'll cover. For those unfamiliar with the Defense Innovation Unit, I'll provide a brief overview of our mission and our process. Matthew will cover the DoD small drone problem, and then I will go into the solution by which DIU executed in partnership with the Army, and then finally Matthew will touch on the Blue Small UAS configuration in a bit more technical depth. Slide. DIU was founded in 2015 by then Secretary of Defense Ash Carter to be the sole organization within the DoD to focus specifically on commercial technology. Our mission is to accelerate commercial technology for national security, and we do this in 3 distinct ways. First, by accelerating the DoD adoption of commercial technology through our creative contracting and unique competitive commercial solutions opening process. A great example of this is our work with the Army Short Range Reconnaissance project, where we were able to execute an 18-month prototype contract to develop trusted, secure small UAS, knocking program of record timelines from years to months. Second, by transforming military capacity and capability. A unique position within the OSD allows us to see across the department and aptly determine where opportunities exist to scale commercial technology. Again, with a short range reconnaissance program, we were able to start with a single service requirement and ultimately scale this technology across the DoD and federal government. Finally, by strengthening the national security innovation base, by lowering the barrier to entry for non-traditional and startup companies to work with the DoD. 4 of the 5 companies you'll hear today have not previously worked with the DoD. Slide. So DIU's process starts with a tough problem in a DoD-funded partner. These partners can range from a PEO, Program Executive Office, to a Navy SEAL team. We really don't discriminate as long as it's a tough DoD problem and we have a little bit of funding. I use our work with the Army's PMUAS to provide a tangible example of how the process works. The Army came to us trying to solve a critical problem. There did not exist a small vertical takeoff and landing rucksack-portable capability to provide the small unit with an organic and rapidly deployable ISR asset to gain quick situational awareness. We work with the Army to distill their roughly 60-page requirement document down to about a 2-page performance specification that translated DoD speak to commercial speak. In parallel to this, DIU leverages its organizational talent consisting of commercial, technical, and defense experts to conduct market research to ensure there were commercial companies able to solve the Army's problem. In this particular case, it was clear that the small UAS commercial market far exceeded the current capabilities existing in DoD's limited inventory. From here, we leverage DIU's commercial solutions opening process, which starts with posting a 1- to 2-page solicitation on our website and ends with a prototype other transaction agreement contract award. Our goal for execution timeline from solicitation to award is 60 days. Post-contract award, we enter into a prototyping phase, which typically lasts between 12 and 18 months before working with our DoD partners to transition the technology to ensure it's fielded to the warfighters who need it. This can come in the form of a production and other transaction agreement with built-in sole source justification or in a variety of other contracting options. Slide.
So I want to touch on the small drone problem and what really has changed. So this problem is relatively new. Although the DoD is not new to small UAS, in some ways advancing the industry, there is a new problem out there. So what has changed? And really the change has been the commercial advancement over the last 10 years, mostly involving new developments in highly maneuverable multi-rotor aircraft. These systems traditionally have exhibited, low cost, leveraging foreign supply chains, extremely intuitive, really requiring no advanced piloting skills, and allowing systems to move intuitively in 3D space. And they're also easy to experiment with. They allow end users to innovate on new use cases that were not previously possible. And the majority of these new systems are, the most popular, affordable, and deemed capable have been manufactured in China or owned or manufactured by Chinese entities. U.S. government has the policy in place right now to prohibit purchasing and using these types of systems. And that really leads to the end statement, which is, almost everyone else, including our adversaries, can buy these systems online, have them shipped worldwide, often anonymously, which has led to our service members having less capability and being put at a tactical and operational disadvantage. Slide.
So given the criticality of the problem that Matthew just described, the need to expeditiously develop and field a capability that was in high demand by the warfighter was at the forefront of our minds. To this aim, we partnered with Army's PMUAS to develop an aggressive but achievable prototyping schedule based on a crawl, walk, run development cycle. The schedule included 3 cycles of design, develop, and experiment, whereby the companies iteratively developed alpha and final prototype configurations, and were able to gain valuable government and, most importantly, warfighter feedback during each phase. Our goal was to ensure the prototypes developed were based largely on what the warfighter needed rather than what checked the requirements box. After final prototype configurations were finalized, we engaged in a robust multi-service cyber evaluation process, which included sponsorship by the Air Force, Navy and Marine Corps team, and Defense Digital Services Rogue Squadron to ensure our systems were cyber secure and met all Section 848 NDA requirements. Finally, we worked closely with the GSA schedule team to make these 5 small UAS systems available on the GSA schedule starting in September. So through all of this effort, what was it that was really accomplished? From DIU's perspective, we're turning the paradigm of the US government falling behind in the small UAS tech race on its head. We've been able to lower the barrier of entry to bring 4 new companies into the National Security Innovation Base. We've shrunk program of record timelines from years to months, where historically the DoD pays a substantial premium for defense-specific products. We've been able to significantly reduce the gap between government unit costs and commercial costing. We've taken a single service requirement and scaled it across the DoD and federal government, and in doing so have helped aggregate the small UAS federal demand signal to make a strong business case for a viable domestic small UAS supply chain. And finally, and most importantly, we've been able to make available relevant technology to our warfighters and government users that is equivalent or better than what is available commercially and what is available to our adversaries. Slide.
So a quick bit on the Blue sUAS configuration, really, what is contained in these solutions. Again, these leverage the Army's program of record, SRR, RDT&E investments to develop a solution for the federal government. And so many of them exhibit the same capabilities, although there are differences between the Army's offering and the Blue sUAS. Notably, one thing you'll see, and as you see the following presentations, you'll learn a bit more, but every system here does have an open software architecture. They are all built around an open source protocol, which is referred to as Mavlink, which right now allows these systems to avoid vendor lock and natively integrate with a number of ground controllers. So it enables freedom of choice with how you control the system. They are all compliant with the FY20's NDA Section 848, as well as the Trade Agreements Act, which is required for listing on the GSA schedule. They are going through a DoD cyber validation testing, and you'll learn more about that here in the next few presentations. And we do expect there to be an authority to operate, or ATO, to be granted for all 5 configurations. One of the biggest options you'll face when ordering really will be the radio. there are configurations of radios that allow a user to operate in the unlicensed, or what's known as the ISM frequency bands. There are also options that are using licensed DoD frequency bands, notably the 1800 megahertz spectrum. They all are also interoperable with an optional mission planning and photogrammetry mapping software, allowing a user to more intelligently plan an sUAS waypoint mission, and also to capture that imagery georectified and create orthomosaic 2D, 3D maps using photogrammetry tools. The table on the right explains just a very high level specification table, which explains what parameter we're looking for and what the capabilities we're sought are going to be. So as you go forward, you'll note for each one of these, there are going to be differences across the platforms. And pay attention to, kind of which offerings kind of have which capability that might fit your use case. Notable big difference is going to be in payload. Every system will have at least a visible EO camera and also a thermal camera, but some systems do offer the added on capability of having two visible cameras, one narrow field of view, one wide field of view, to allow you to have better optical zoom to get both a zoomed out situational awareness view as well as a zoomed in, more closer look at something from further away. Next slide, please.
Okay, just a quick shout out for all those. If you have specific questions, please reach out to bluesmalluas@diu.mil. We also went live with our website this morning as well, which provides a bit more detail for each of the 5 companies as well as their specific contact information. So please do utilize the links in your presentation to reach out for more information. Slide. Okay, we will now transition to the cyber testing and evaluation portion of the program. Our first presenter will be Mr. Daniel Holtzman. Mr. Holtzman serves as the Air Force Cyber Technical Director focused on weapons systems. He has over 30 years experience addressing large-scale systems engineering, high-performance computing, and weapons systems acquisition and technical challenges in support of the U.S. Department of Defense, NATO, and private industry. His office is conducting cybersecurity and ATO assessments on Teal, Altavian, and Vantage robotic systems. Mr. Holtzman, over to you.
Thank you. Just a comm check. Can you hear me okay? Over.
Yep, we have you loud and clear.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to let you know what we're doing to support this fantastic effort. So my name is Danny Holtzman, and I have the authorization boundary that includes upwards of 400 different Air Force systems, including most of our weapons systems. So this is really exciting for me to participate here. If you go to the next chart, I want to quickly just give you a broad understanding of what we're doing from an authorization perspective. We've been working what we call the fast track process, which isn't fast, but it's actually a risk-based approach. You can go to the next chart whenever you're available to. It's a risk-based view of how to implement the risk management framework. So we're actually looking at, when you get to the next chart, you'll see the 3 basic big steps, right? The first step is understanding the systems engineering of our systems. That's really not a cyber thing, but it's foundational to us being able to do a risk assessment that can provide reciprocity to the other services, agencies, and authorizing officials. By understanding what the system is, how it works, where the parts come from, how data moves into and out of it, and those kinds of things, we're able to move into step 2 rather rapidly and understand what kind of situation we need to follow in order to understand the risk associated with it, including targeted penetration testing, which we use to poke at things that are common problems, known problems, areas where we have some risk and vulnerabilities from past experience. So we kind of capture our historical knowledge and don't look at things in isolation, which allows us to move to step 3 rather rapidly. So that's our agile decision process. Again, I want to stress, right, cybersecurity is a journey, not a destination. There is no perfect. We are in the risk management business. Step 1 is really something that's foundational, and it is understanding the actual system and how it works. We don't talk a lot about here of things that other people talk about in terms of compliance or controls. Not that those things are not necessary, but we really come at this from, if you go to the next chart, chart 3, you'll see my goal as an authorizing official is to provide anybody who wants to use one of these systems or any of our systems an informed choice as a consumer to understand what I determined the risk to be, what my assumptions, constraints, and body of evidence that I looked at was, what risks I identified, how we identified mitigations for those. So it provides a package along with my ATO to help others understand what the risk is they're accepting by using these specific systems. That's really all I wanted to transmit, to let you know we're doing a thorough systems engineering scrub of the systems, some penetration testing of the architectures and the performance and the execution, and we'll document all of this in what I call my ATO package. Back over to you, Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Holtzman, for the overview and for you and your organization's dedication to the Blue Small UAS effort. Our next presenter will be Mr. Dan Flack. Dan Flack has been working with the former DIU Rogue Squadron, now Defense Digital Service Rogue Squadron team since August of 2017, where he manages the RISER program at DDS and provides subject matter expertise on a variety of other UAS, counter-UAS issues across a wide range of technical scope. His office is conducting cyber penetration tests on all 5 small UAS configurations as an additional layer of cybersecurity scrutiny. Dan, over to you.
Thank you, Chris, and good morning to everybody on the West Coast and afternoon to everybody here on the East Coast. As Chris mentioned, we've been doing some RISER work, that is the mitigation of untrusted foreign aircraft since about mid to late 2017. We are going to be bootstrapping the process that we took doing that to do an extremely rapid penetration test of all 5 of these platforms, about 1 to 2 days for each platform. Final reports should be expected around the end of August. We're going to be looking at 5 general things here: deactivation processes on these aircraft, log processes, some firmware upgrade processes and handling, what sort of external comms are happening from the drone and the apps, as well as some general vulnerability and penetration surface area testing. As we do that, we'll review each of these aircraft and dig a little bit deeper as we find things. In each of those 5 areas above, our final report will have a brief description of what we found, what it means, and then a list of recommendations for both the company and for the government for different mitigations you might take, such as turning the phone into airplane mode if there's too much outboard comms, depending upon the mission. Outside of that, the rest of our analysis is ongoing, and we have all 5 of these platforms already, and these analyses are already in progress. So we are fully expected to be able to achieve that August 31st deadline. Back over to you, Chris.
Dan, great, and thanks for the overview. So finally, I'd like to introduce our last presenter, Haven Nguyen. Haven currently serves as a security protection branch chief at GSA Region 7, located in Fort Worth, Texas. As the branch chief, he leads a group of contracting professionals charged with awarding and administering multiple award schedule IDIQ contracts across the security and protection category. Haven is here to talk to you today about options for procuring these small UAS configurations on the GSA schedule. Haven, over to you.
Thank you, Christopher. It's my pleasure to speak with you all today about GSA's role in the sUAS program and what we've been engaged in over the last several months working with DIU. As you heard Chris say earlier, right, our goal at GSA really is to place all 5 configurations on a multiple award schedule or GSA schedule to facilitate the ease of procurement and consolidate federal buying power. We're able to do that because of some of the heavy lifting that you've heard that the various DoD components have engaged in over the last several months. And so with that, what we'd like to do, you can go to the next slide, thank you. What I'd like to do quickly is just kind of establish for you, once that heavy lifting is moved to the next phase and we're able to establish a contract vehicle using our multiple award schedules platform, there will be some distinct roles and responsibilities. Here at GSA, we see our role is to establish, award and administer the contracts at a federal supply schedule level And then each ordering activity will obviously have the responsibility for the award administration and then closeout of the orders placed against the set schedules contract. So we're leveraging the infrastructure that is already in place for the Federal Supply Schedules program. And as most of you, I hope, already know, that enables you guys to perform streamlined orders against established long-term multiple award IDIQ type contracts. And so again, because of all of the heavy lifting that has been done and the risk mitigation that has been done, we'll be able to offer a contract and an ordering vehicle for the sUAS program using the commercial practices that we already have in place for the mass schedules program. Next slide, please. So again, our goal, we will admit, or our responsibilities, we will administer these GSA contracts. Again, this is a 20-year, potentially 20-year contract, a 5 base year and 3 5-year options. And so we will be responsible to maintain that contract once awarded. We will also provide advice and guidance related to ordering activities and how you might touch these various contracts, to include an ordering guide that we are developing now to facilitate ordering, at least initially in September once these have hit the schedule. One of the things I want to point out is that we will always negotiate a fair and reasonable price for the federal government when we award these contracts. We'll initially establish fair and reasonable pricing, and then obviously at the order level, when you have more specifics about volume and schedules and other things specific to the order, you'll be able to further negotiate those prices with the various offerers. We'll also provide advice related to any schedule matters. And so, think fast forward as this program expands. Right now, we've got 5 contractors and basically 5 platforms, but over the life of a mass contract, we anticipate some growth there. So think about accessories, possibly additional platforms. Instead of having to go out and issue new contracts, hopefully we can leverage the contracts we have in place and just add to those existing contracts. Next slide, please. On your end, you'll have the flexibility to do a few things. One is define your own order requirements. And so what the GSA schedule will not do is limit you in any way. And so the flexibility we offer with that contract is the ability to add and remove items as you need. You will have the responsibility and the opportunity to prepare your own requirements documents. If you have anything specific that you need to define within those requirements, obviously you'll be responsible to properly manage your own funds. And then you'll have the opportunity to evaluate your quotes as subject matter experts to determine which of the platforms makes the most sense for your requirement at the time. And then you'll also be engaged in the monitoring of the performance of those contractors with our help if needed, right? So as you issue those orders in terms of delivery and contract administration or order administration, you'll have the flexibility and opportunity to manage that on your own with the assistance of GSA if ever necessary. Next slide. How you'll access these platforms on the GSA schedule will depend a lot on the type of buyer you are. If you think about the type of sUAS if you think about the sUAS, there may be various ways to purchase based on the dollar amount of an individual item versus a bulk buy. So if you are a purchase card holder, your procedures to access these contracts will be slightly different from that of a contracting officer. And if you're a state and local government, also you'll have some slightly different methods as to how you'll access the contract. In the next slide, I'm going to focus specifically on the contracting officer and what or how they will access these items on schedule. Next slide. So the ordering specifics, if you're a contracting officer, are pretty simple in terms of how you access, simple and streamlined. So you'll follow procedures in FAR 8.4. And for those out there that speak the contracting language, that is as opposed to, I would say, using FAR Part 15. And so envision the flexibility and streamlining ability you have in using FAR 8.4 versus Part 15 or another more complex FAR part to acquire these items. You also may set aside these items for small business at the ordering level. That will be a contracting officer's decision, given the market and who's available at the small business level to facilitate that order. And then I just wanted to highlight here that orders against schedule are not exempt from the acquisition plan. As DoD is well aware, the acquisition plan is an extremely important part of the acquisition process. No exception here. However, in that planning, you would want to make sure you fully consider the GSA IDIQs that we will have already established for you when the requirements are being developed. And then obviously you'll have some agency-specific supplements. You heard from several DoD components prior to me, and they talked about some of the risk mitigation things that they've done on the front end. I assume some of those will continue throughout the life of this program. And so you would just want to keep in mind any supplements that address those items once you're prepared to place an order against the GSA contract. Next slide. So just in real simple terms, and then I'll let you guys move on to what you actually joined this briefing to see. But from a contracting officer standpoint, there's a few steps that have to be followed, but again, very streamlined, and I'll go through these quickly. Let's assume it's exceeding the simplified acquisition threshold. You'll develop an RFQ, and hopefully you'll use some of the platforms that we've already established at GSA, like our GSA eBuy system, to develop and post that RFQ. You'll be able to receive quotes from the folks that have the platforms on schedule. So think about the 5 contractors that we've talked about so far today and you'll hear from later. You'll be able to seek price reductions once you receive those quotes back. So think in terms of negotiating better pricing based on your volume. You may not place orders verbally because of that dollar amount. And then you'll make a best value determination. And again, using FAR 8.4 allows you to do that in a much more streamlined and simplified way than say a Part 15 order. And you can see that there are other procedures for below the or between the micro and the simplified acquisition threshold, as well as below the micro. Next slide, please. So the headline here, and I'll break it down steps 1 through 6 in terms of how you'll access these items on schedule post-September. You'll plan your acquisition with the mass contract in mind. You'll define that requirement and develop your solicitation, again, using hopefully some of the GSA platforms that we have available to do so. You'll be able to then issue that solicitation using the GSA eBuy program. Once you receive those quotes back within the GSA eBuy platform, you'll be able to evaluate those quotes based on the criteria you set forth for your order or for your requirement. Once that's done, you'll be able to award the order to one of those 5 contractors that we have on schedule at the time. And then ultimately you'll administer that order and then close it out and through completion. So those are the basic steps, right? There's obviously some details between steps 1 through 6. There's some resource slides that will be made available to you that will kind of expand on those steps and point you in the direction of some of the tools that are available to you as you research how to use schedules and as you in September, hopefully, walk down the path of actually placing orders. Next slide. Okay, Chris, back over to you.
Great, thanks, Haven. I think we're all anxiously awaiting the day we can click the link to see all 5 small UAS options available for purchase on the schedule. So we really appreciate the support of the GSA team in making this happen. So this concludes the government portion of today's Blue Small UAS program. Thank you for attending, and we hope the content was useful in helping to inform your organization's small UAS needs. I'd like to extend a quick thank you to the DIU team who has worked tirelessly to make the Blue Small UAS effort happen. A very big thank you to DIU's Director Mike Brown for his continued support, and to Johanna Jones, Catherine Koleski, Melissa Echeverry, and Tabitha Kinchin for coordinating the logistics for this event. Without them, the show truly would not go on. So now what you've, I think, anxiously been awaiting, the next 2.5 hours will provide DoD and government stakeholders the opportunity to learn more about each of the company's offerings. There will be a short 10-minute overview from each company and then an opportunity to ask questions. Please use the chat function of Teams to ask questions during the Q&A time slots, and we will answer in the order that they are received. Ongoing conversations with the companies are encouraged, and we provided contact information and an updated briefing from today's presentation on our website, which went live today, and that is www.diu.mil/autonomy/blue-small UAS. Again, one more time, www.diu.mil/autonomy/blue-small UAS.